It started with smoke. Thick, black, curling smoke rising against the night sky, swallowing the stars above my quiet neighborhood. I stood barefoot in the street, staring in disbelief as flames devoured the house I had built with my own hands. My home, my sanctuary, now nothing more than kindling, collapsing beam by beam under the crackling roar of fire. And behind me, I could hear them, members of the HOA, whispering, pretending to be shocked. But I knew, oh, I knew, they had been after me for years, desperate to drag me into their little cult of power-tripping rules and fines. And now they had crossed the line. They thought they had won. They had no idea I had written the very laws they just broke. It all began a year earlier, when I bought the property on the edge of Willow Creek Estates. Unlike every other home in the neighborhood, mine wasn't subject to HOA authority. I'd negotiated it years back when I sold a portion of the land to the developers who would later form the subdivision. Back then, I was a practicing attorney. In fact, I drafted the very charter that gave birth to the HOA. I made sure to include a grandfather clause protecting my home from their reach. But people like that don't take kindly to someone living outside their control. They sent letters, inviting me to join. I ignored them. They started showing up at my door, warning me that my unkempt lawn lowered property values. I laughed in their faces. My grass wasn't perfect, no, because I had better things to do than measure it with a ruler. Their president, a sharp-tongued woman named Karen, yes, really, made it her personal mission to bring me down. She'd walk past my house every morning with her little dog, shaking her head dramatically as though my porch swing was a public menace. The escalation was gradual at first. Fake violation notices tucked under my windshield. Anonymous complaints about strange smells coming from my yard when I grilled on Sundays. But when none of that worked, they turned darker. I woke up one morning to find my fence smashed. Another day, someone poured paint across my driveway. The police shrugged. It was all petty vandalism, nothing they could do without proof. And then came the night of the fire. I had just finished dinner when I heard a faint crackling outside. By the time I stepped out, the flames were already licking up the siding, too fast and too deliberate to be an accident. Gasoline. I could smell it. I called 911, but the fire spread like a hungry beast, and all I could do was watch as the life I built turned to ash. Neighbors gathered, pretending to look concerned, but I caught the smirk on Karen's lips as the fire department finally arrived. She thought I was broken. She thought this was the end. But here's the thing about playing with fire, you never know who's really holding the match. In the days that followed, I put on a show. I acted devastated, helpless, wandering the ruins of my house like a ghost. And the HOA gloated, certain they'd driven me out for good. What they didn't realize was that I still had a copy of the charter, their own bylaws. And within them, a clause they had forgotten. Any intentional damage caused by HOA representatives, directly or indirectly, rendered the entire board personally liable under both civil and criminal law. I spent weeks gathering evidence. Security cameras from nearby intersections caught suspicious late-night meetings in the HOA clubhouse the night before the fire. A neighbor's doorbell cam picked up two board members carrying gas cans down the street. And my insurance investigator, he confirmed it wasn't an accident. Once I had it all, I didn't go to the police first. I went to the county clerk's office. Filed lawsuits so airtight they could choke. Every board member's name was on them. Civil damages, criminal charges, personal liability. Their homes, their cars, their bank accounts, all on the line. When the sheriff arrived at the next HOA meeting with warrants, the look on Karen's face was sweeter than any victory I'd ever tasted. She was handcuffed right there in front of her little kingdom, dragged out while neighbors whispered and filmed on their phones. But I wasn't done. With the board dismantled and the HOA bankrupt from legal fees, I moved to buy up the properties they were forced to sell. Piece by piece, lot by lot, until the entire subdivision belonged to me. Now, when Karen drives by, on her way to her tiny rental apartment across town, she has to pass the sign at the entrance of Willow Creek. A sign I put up personally. It reads, "Private community, no HOA. Ever. My house may have burned, but in the ashes, I built something stronger." My revenge wasn't just against Karen. It was against the whole idea that a handful of petty tyrants could control how a person lives. And in the end, I won. Because they forgot the first rule of power: never cross the one who wrote the law.